Hello everybody and welcome to this video in which we are going to be looking at how we can filter data using pandas, so the pandas library of code for Python. So why would we want to do this? Well, it might be, and it frequently is the case, that let's have a look at this CSV file here. We've got data like this and we've got more and more data here, and what we start to realize is we might not want to work with all of the data all of the time, so we might want to filter it. So we might want to say, okay, I just want to look at the countries which are in Africa, for example, or just the countries which are in Europe, for example. Or maybe I just want to look at the countries where Gini, right, and we've got a deep dive card on what a Gini is. It's an index essentially of how equal the wealth of a country is distributed. So I might want to look at that and say, okay, I just want to look at the countries that have got a Gini less than 30 or greater than 40. So I just want to work with some of the data. I want to slice out some of the data, and that's why we need to filter. And we're going to be using pandas to do so. So in this example, I'm going to be kind of slicing out all of the countries, so all of the data relating to countries in the continent of Europe. So I want to slice out all of the rest of it. I'm not interested in the rest of the world. I just want to look at the countries in Europe. So now let's come back here and let's see how we can do it. So we work off the assumption, of course, that pandas is the library is already installed on the system, and then we can use the import keyword. So we're going to import pandas as usual as PD. Not a pine decoration, no, as PD, right? So PD I can now use shorthand to get the code from the pandas library. So first of all, let's get the data in here. Notice wealth.csv is in the same directory as this, as you can see there, same directory as the Python file we're working with. So we're just going to import, going to use read_csv method to get it. So let's call it df for data frame. Again, conventional. Going to create a pandas data frame, and we are going to pd, and we're going to use read csv method, and of course it's going to be wealth.csv. Okay, let's just have a look at the data, right? Let's just have a quick look at that. So we're going to print, it's going to be the data frame, so the one we just created, and we're just going to look at the head and just going to look at the data that we've got back from that. So let's do so here, like so. Yep, there we go. So we've now got a data frame, pandas data frame. Of course, please read technique cards, etc. on that if you need to. We've got the index there, 0, got the country with the country name, continent, okay, GDP, gross domestic product per capita, per person, per head in the country, and the Gini. Okay. At the moment, it's all saying Europe. Well, hold on. Remember, we can say here, okay, let's have 20, the first 20 rows of data, because by default it gives us the first 5 on head. Let's have a look at the first 20, and we realize we're getting countries with Asia. Actually, we're getting all of them, right? We're reading them all in, but that's just to show that actually this data frame at the moment is not filtered. The df, this data frame, is not filtered. We want to filter it just for the countries with the continent of Europe. See, continent is your column heading, continent, and we're looking for the value of Europe in the continent. Okay, let's break this down. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. There will be a deeper dive card, technique card and video on pandas series and data frames and Boolean indexing and all this mumbo jumbo. You're going to hear me reference here. This technique card is just to get us up and running working with it. So I will talk a little bit about it, but please check out the other cards as well, because it will help you to understand it a bit more. So first of all, a series. Well, a series in pandas is really just, think of a series as a column, right? It's just a column with an index, right? That's a series. And then a data frame is a load of those series stuck together. So you can think about a spreadsheet example. Series would be a column, and the spreadsheet's all the columns and rows stuck together, right? Okay, so let's have a think about that. So let's just create a new variable, country, country name, for example. Spell name correctly, get the name right, country name. So we're going to get a variable, and we're going to just get a series. Well, df is the data frame, and then we're just going to index it for country, I believe. And that's that column, you see country, that column is the country name, right? And that's what I want to stick in there. So here, if we just look at that part there, that there is going to return a series. Right there, that's how we get a series. Grab a series, grab a column of data, and then that's going to be assigned to this variable country name, right? Okay, let's just print it. print country name like that, and hopefully we're just going to see a column of the country names, but it's going to have an index as well, and that's what makes it a series, I guess, or a way that we can see that as a series. So let's just run that again. Yeah, so we've got the country names, okay, but we've also, so you might be thinking, well, that's a list, very similar to a Python list. It is very similar to a Python list, but notice it's also got an index, right? So this is a unique data structure we get in pandas, a series. So yes, we've got a list of all of the values there, but we've also got them indexed, okay, quite important. And that's how we get a series, okay. Now, how does this relate to filtering? We'll get there in a moment, because we're going to use this in a moment to actually create a new data frame filtered. But we need to do something a little bit more. We need to think about getting true and false values, right? True and false values. So I want to get a series, but I want it to be a series filled with true or false. So it'll be like true, 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 yeah, false, 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 false. And that's going to be based on the condition here. So df country, well, let's get a true or false. So a Boolean value, right? A Boolean value, Boolean is true or false. So equal to df country, not country, but continents, right? Otherwise we'd have false all the way down. Continent is equal to what? Well, we want this to be Europe, right? So it's going to be equal to the string Europe, like that. So here, if you think about this, this is either going to come back, in fact, let's just kind of do that so you can just focus on that. That's going to come back true or false. It's going to look down the data frame, it's going to say continent, is it equal to Europe? If it's equal to Europe, true. If it's not equal to Europe, false. So we're going to get a series which is based on Boolean values. True, 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 false, 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 false. It's a Boolean series. We might want to call it a Boolean series. And then that's going to be stored in country name, right? Well, let's change that, I don't know. Let's do Europe, because now we're looking at Europe, Boolean, let's make it really clear, series, right? So the Europe Boolean series is going to be a Boolean series based on is it Europe or not. And then we're going to print that out. And what do we expect to see? Well, we expect to see a lot of true values at the start, because here actually it's like Europe all the way, so it'd be like true, yeah, true, true, true. Is continent equal to Europe? Yes, it is true. Yes, it is true. Yeah. And then false, 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 false. All the way down it's going to be false, because of course South America is not equal to Europe. So expect to see trues at the start of the series, and then false as we move through the series. So let's make sure we've saved it. Yes, we have. And then let's clear that and let's just run it. There we go. Okay. So now we've got a series, right? Got a series, and it's got the index there, but it's a Boolean series because it's going to be a Boolean value, true or false, right? True, 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 because this is like Slovakia, Slovenia, true, true, true. And then down here it's like, I don't know, Brazil, whatever, false, false, false. Okay, hopefully keeping up with this, we've got a Boolean series. Don't worry if not, watch the video again, read over the technique card and practice, practice, practice. That's really how you're going to learn it. But the point is, we've got a Boolean series, okay. And that's how we got it there. It's this part, right? It's this side of our assignment operator. Now, let's kind of just get rid of that a moment. Let's get rid of that a moment so we can just focus on that. So this is the way in pandas we're getting our Boolean series. Okay, finally we get to filtering, right? Yes, we get to filtering. What we're going to do with filtering, we're actually going to use this. All right, fairly simple, df and then these square brackets. And this is called Boolean indexing. Boolean indexing. It's pretty cool. It's unique to pandas, really. What we're going to do is say, okay, whatever we put in, we're going to create a data frame. So remember, a data frame is your whole spreadsheet. Your data frame is loads and loads of columns and indexes. Your data frame is all of your series stuck together. So we're saying we're going to create a data frame. Think of it as a spreadsheet. We're going to create that, but it's going to be based on. It's going to be based on this. It's going to be based on a Boolean series. So essentially, Boolean indexing, what we're doing here, it will go through this, which is there, and it will say, okay, if it's true, if that value is true, I'm going to grab all of the data for that row. I'm going to grab all the data. I think that was Slovakia. So since it's true, I'm going to grab all of the data for that, which is Slovakia, GDP per capita, the whole shebang, the whole lot, and I'm going to stick that into my new data frame. And then this one here, index to 1, that's true as well. So guess what? I'll grab all the data for that. And I think it was Slovenia, the whole shebang for Slovenia, stick it into my data frame. So it's creating a data frame, based on the Boolean values. If it's true, it gets stuck into the data frame. If it's false, it's dropped out of the data frame. It's not included. Bang, filtered. There you go, it's filtered, right? We're now filtering it, but it's based on whatever it is that we've done here to get the Boolean series. It's based on the true and false from that. Okay, in this case, it's based on, is it in Europe or is it not in Europe? So all I'm going to do is grab that, grab all of that, and remember this is the code that gives us the Boolean series. Copy it, Control C, get rid of it, and I'm just going to drop it into there. And that now is the syntax, that's the code. And I didn't just want to show you that directly without explaining it, because it can be confusing. And you're not trying to memorize this, you're trying to understand this, what's going on. So we're using this here, which is Boolean indexing. It will give us a data frame based on whatever we put in here, which will be a Boolean series, true and false series, right? Which we get from this here, this right here, this DF continent is equal to Europe. And of course, you can play with that and change that as well. But let's just prove it and make sure I'm not talking a load of gobbledygook, right? Better make sure that I'm not. So let's print. Oh, hold on. Not going to print it. We haven't actually we haven't actually saved it anyway. We have not assigned it to a variable. So let's do that. Right, remember our assignment operator, it's going to do this first on the right side, and then it's going to stick it into the variable, and we can just call it, I guess, Europe underscore DF, right, the Europe data frame. So the European data frame is the filtered data frame. That was the holy grail. That was the thing we were trying to get right from the start of this video. And now let's print it. Not a European castle. Helps if you spell Europe, guess, correctly. There, right, that. So we're just going to print out the European data frame, and what we expect to see a data frame. So we expect to see all the data, and country name, the continent, the GDP per capita, all of this jazz here, the Gini, all of this, but only for Slovakia, Slovenia, Belarus, down to Germany. We do not expect to see Bhutan in it or Pakistan in it because they have been filtered out with our Boolean series over there. Okay, enough talking, let's save it and let's make sure that it works. I'll leave that there for your reference. And there we go. Right, there you go. So there's our data frame, which is filtered. Everything in the data frame is just Europe. And this is not the head method. This is the whole shebang. This is the whole data frame. So I'm not just getting the top 5 or anything. Of course I could, but this is everything in the data frame. Lovely, isn't it? All nice and clean. The data's nice and clean. We filtered it for Europe. It's based off this Boolean series. We've Boolean indexed it, so we've created the data frame saying, okay, if that's true in the series, give us all the data for it. Notice the index. That's why the index number is important, right? Okay. So, hopefully that makes sense. If not, go and watch the deep dive technique card and video, read it about a series and about a data frame and all of that kind of stuff. But this should be enough to get you up and running, because now you can start to use this in your projects, right? You can now start to filter data in your projects. There is one more thing, and I'm going to do it in a separate video because this is enough to get you started. But you might be saying, okay, what if I want to filter based on 2 conditions? So I want all of the, I want all of the data for European countries, but only if they've got a Gini value of less than 30, let's say. I'm going to cover that in the next video. In the meantime, play about with that. You can use that data from the wealth.csv file, right? Or create your own data, work with it. Can you make it Asia? Well, of course you can, right? Can you make it so it's countries with a Gini less than 30 anywhere in the world? Well, I think you could as well. Okay, so have some fun with it. Start to apply it to your projects. Really important, really powerful stuff for our data handling work with Python. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope it was used, and until next time, please take care.